Well, good morning, everybody. Robert Phoenix back again with you today. Running a little lit today. Monday's like my floater day. That's how I see Monday. Right? It's the floater day. Uh, did about a maybe 2 hour show last night, 2.5 hour show, close to it. So I give myself a little bit of latitude on Monday, but Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 8:45 a.m. here at Central Standard Time. Welcome to 15 Minutes of Flame. And I have a lot to share with you this morning. Much of it, quite frankly, not good. And I'm just going to come right out and just be very upfront and blunt and honest about my assessment and where I think things are headed very quickly, very quickly. I'm going to show you two videos that are shocking for different reasons, but they're shocking. And one of them has to do with what's happening in New York City. And the other is what's about to take place in Chicago, aka Chitown. And I think it's important to keep in mind that both the state of New York and the state of Illinois, where Chicago is obviously, is being run by two extremely quote unquote liberal, progressive, Democratic governors. Now, in New York, we know that Andrew Cuomo has essentially okayed 11-hour and 55-minute abortions. That's happened. So we understand how Cuomo feels about life or death. It's pretty clear. It's pretty evident. And to isolate that out and say, well, that's that, right? That's a different scenario. And meanwhile, there's this other scenario here that has nothing to do with his permission for medical professionals to abort life just before it's about to take its first breath. That those two are separate issues. You're patently wrong. You are wrong. Sorry, they're connected. And Illinois is being governed by J.P. Pritzker, who is the brother of Penny Pritzker, and the brother of Wendy Pritzker, who used to be James Pritzker, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So this is a state that has been a stronghold of hardcore Democratic, progressive, Alinsky-esque governing for decades. It's where Hillary Clinton was born. Am I right about that? I think I'm pretty right about that. I think Hillary Clinton's from Illinois, if I'm not mistaken. And I've done a whole breakdown on the city of Chicago and all the high strange. It's there. Chicago is moving very aggressively towards a vaccination program, a public vaccination program. So things are speeding up. Well, things are not happening on the one hand, things are really happening on the other. Okay. So what I want to do is I want to get Rosie away from my screen, because Rosie has decided she's going to insert herself in today's show. Thank you, Rosie. I appreciate that. Isn't it great when a cat listens to you? I mean, it's just like the fucking world is amazing. All right, let me check in with Chatlandia. Let's see what we got here. There's FUP77. Good morning. And Beth, good morning. JMP, good morning. There's DS, Donna Spicer. Good morning. Uncle Glenn, morning inmates. Tamara Garth. Hey, Tamara, nice to see you. CVMR47 from New York City. All right. Christine Mose. Hi, Christine. Natasha. Hi, Natasha. Good to see you. Steve Mercer, my man. The sheriff. Christy Tesmer. Good morning, Christy. The communist hotspots. Jolie, how are you this morning, Jolie? Catch up with you after the show. Cindy, good morning, Cindy. There's Justice, the wonder from down under. Speaking of which, Australia is planning on opening an examination of the whole coronavirus deal. Robin Pritzker is a friend of mine for 40 years. Okay. Well, their governor is about to mandate vaccines. Good morning, Joan. So it's a good thing you probably have friends in high places. That's what I would say, at the very least. And it's also probably good that you're also not in you're not in Illinois currently. That's what I would say, especially Chicago. All right, so why don't I just get right to it? I'm going to play you I'm going to play the entirety of this video. Okay. I'm going to play the entirety of this video. Then I'm going to play a very brief clip about what's happening in Chicago. I'm going to throw a few other things in here to kind of spice up the shit stew for Monday morning. But I have to do it. I have to do it. I am, sometimes I'm the bearer of hope and positivity. And clearly, I do believe that we are in a hopeful and positive situation because we can hopefully just flush this shit and get on with the real life on planet Earth. But I also have to be fair and balanced, as they say, to tell you what I think is happening. And if I don't, then I'm not doing either you or me a service. So why don't we get to it? I'm going to start off with the video of this young woman. She is a nurse. Now, she does not work in New York City. However, a friend of hers does. She is a nurse, and when you listen to her talk, you will scan her and you will get 100% congruence. It's about 15 minutes long. So I urge you to hang in here and watch the entirety of the video. Okay. All right. So let me get it going here. We'll share screenage. And let's see what we got here. To make sure I got the right piece up here. Where is it? There it is. Okay. All right. This should work just fine. Okay. I've set the stage and away we go.
This video go viral. I'm sure I'm going to get some hate messages after this. Frankly, I don't care because this could save someone's life. I'm a nurse practitioner. I am licensed and certified. I am not on the front lines. I have a friend in New York City who's on the front lines. And for her safety, she cannot come out and say these things. So I am her voice. I'm not going to name names of people or hospitals for the safety of those involved. But this is her account, okay? I am her voice here. I'm going to tell you what she has told me. She wants this to get out. Now, I'm sure this is not the case everywhere. I'm confident. I have friends that are in other places. They're on the front lines. They're in ICU. And it's not like this everywhere. But in New York City right now, in some of the hospitals, this is what is going on. People are sick, but they don't have to stay sick. They are killing them. They are not helping them. She used the word murder, coming from a nurse who went to New York City expecting to help. Patients are left to rot and die. Her words. She has never seen so much neglect. No one cares. They are cold and they don't care anymore. It's the blind leading the blind. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I was on with some nurse friends of mine and we were discussing different medications that could be used to potentially help people. Doctors who were reporting around the country that they were using a combination of medications that were helping people. People were not dying when they were on these medications. They were getting better. Those medications are not being used in hospitals in New York City. What is happening is that they're putting people on nasal cannula. If they require more than 6 liters of nasal cannula, they get intubated, they go on the vent, or they get trached if there's not enough vents. They don't get high flow, no non-rebreather, no non-invasive ventilation, no CPAP, no BiPAP. They're on a closed system, the ventilator, versus a CPAP or a BiPAP for fear that it will spread the virus. Which, by the way, I know a nurse in Florida who was fired for exposing that about CPAP and BiPAP and patients being put on the ventilator, like straight away to the ventilator, to be on a closed system. The patients don't know any better. They don't have family with them. There is no one there with them to advocate for them. So they are scared and they give consent. The ventilators have high PEEP, high pressure, which then causes barotrauma. It causes trauma to the lungs. Dr. Siddell, Cameron Kyle Siddell, a few weeks ago put out a video. He's in New York City, and he put out a video saying something is not right, like we're not treating this correctly. We're doing something wrong. This doesn't make sense. They pulled his video from YouTube and they took him out of ICU because they couldn't have one doctor going against the grain, going against their protocol. The protocol is propofol or some kind of sedation because they're on the ventilator, and IV antibiotics. There's no hydroxychloroquine. They're not using that combination with Zithromax. They're not using zinc, vitamin C, high doses of vitamins A and D. They laugh. This is what she's told me. They laugh at that. She says, this is a nightmare. It's out of a horror movie, and I don't want to be a part of this. There are people who are a full code, and yet if they crash, they're not doing compressions because it will spread the virus. Full code, not doing compressions. Family is not there. They have no one to answer to. No one is being held accountable. A code was called and no one came. So sometimes they're not even resuscitating people. Again, left to rot and die. They're not given blood because we know that the blood is not oxygenated in these COVID patients. We know that. There are doctors all around the world sounding the alarms. These are the drugs that work. This is the pathophysiology of the disease. This is what's happening. And for some reason, it's not changing. Even though we know, some of us know what's going on, nothing is changing on the front lines. They stay in the same PPE all shift, except for the top pair of gloves. So 2 pairs of gloves, or I don't know, maybe more than 2, but they're only changing the gloves on the outside. Gown, mask, whatever else stays the same because all patients are COVID patients. So if it's a COVID floor, it's all COVID, but it's not because some of them are rule out COVID. So even if they're rule out COVID and they're not COVID, they're going to get COVID because they're using the same PPE all shift and they're carrying that contamination to all of the patients. They're not changing their PPE. They're not going into rooms. So they're running long tubing into the room so that they can manage the tubing from outside of the rooms. So if they're not going into the rooms, that means they're not assessing the patients as frequently as you would be otherwise assessing your patients. They are not doing rapid result tests. You're lucky if you get results in 5 days. Okay, this is coming from my friend who is in New York City right now on assignment, who went there to help, and this is what she's finding. It's a horror movie, she says, not because of the disease, but because of the way it's being handled. She said, we need help, and people are sitting there waiting in the hotels, money, I guess, being paid, it's being paid for by FEMA, and yet they're still understaffed. And there are hundreds of people, hundreds of nurses in the hotels waiting to be called onto a shift. So there is manpower enough if the goal were to actually save people, but resources are not being utilized properly or to full capacity in a way that maximizes the patient benefit or improves the outcomes. The records and charting are crap. And now some of these hospitals in New York City are probably crappy on a good day. So you add in the fear of COVID and the fear of the whole pandemic and forget it. So if you're in a crappy hospital with crappy nurses, let's face it, all of us nurses have worked with crappy nurses before who don't care. So now you add in this, forget it. And they're having people do things that they can't do. So maybe things that they're not proficient in. So maybe a nurse who's not familiar or comfortable with using a ventilator. And it's that figure it out mentality. Figure it out. These patients are critical and they're crashing, figure it out. So nurses are being celebrated as heroes, right? We see how like the fire trucks and the police are like lining up and practically having these parades and celebrating them as heroes. And don't get me wrong, I'm sure in some parts of the country and other ICUs, I have friends that are working on the front lines in ICU and they are good nurses and some of them are heroes. But we have nurses being celebrated as heroes who are killing people. They're not heroes and they're being brainwashed to think they're doing something great just by going to work because they're brave enough to go to work. Well, what are you doing at work? You're certainly not saving people if you're not even running codes. You're not even going into patient rooms. You're a coward. You're hurting people. You're killing them. You're contributing to the problem. I know I'm going to get hate mail for this, and that's fine, because people are dying who don't have to die. Again, there's no family there, so no one's being held accountable. And once these people get intubated, they're being scared into giving consent to be intubated, and then for a lot of them, it's over. And there's nobody going to be held accountable. And there's nobody looking out for them. They are completely by themselves. There's like a total lack of critical thinking. It's out the window, and people are scared to speak up. And one person alone isn't going to change the overall culture of a hospital or a system or a city. Like I said, Dr. Cameron Kyle Seidel's video was pulled from YouTube, and he was pulled from the ICU for sounding the alarm and going against the grain. So people are sounding the alarm. It's just not changing anything, apparently. So what can you do? Buck the system. I'm really fortunate I don't have any family in New York City that I personally have to worry about. If there are people that you are worried about, or maybe it's not even New York City, maybe you're in another city that's being really hard hit and you're just hearing really bad things coming out of that city, buck the system. Something is wrong in the system. So go against the grain. Request records immediately. Records, transcripts, immediately. If there's a medication that you want your loved one to be given, report it as an at-home medication and demand that it be continued. That's just a tip from inside the system. If you want a medication to be given, you've got to report that it's an at-home medication and that you demand that it be continued. Your loved one is not going to have you in there advocating for them once they go in. You're not allowed in. The only reports that we're able to get of what's going on are coming from the inside, and people are afraid to speak out. People have lost their jobs. Do not give consent for intubation if you don't want to be intubated or your loved one to be intubated. Demand non-invasive or less invasive ventilation methods. As soon as you give that consent, you might not come out of it. Now, in some cases, it might be appropriate. We just don't know. We know that it's being used inappropriately in a lot of cases, and that the ventilators are making people worse. Please share this video, make it go viral. People need to know this. This is the truth of what's going on from my nurse friend who's in New York City right now on assignment. This is murder, she says. People are being murdered and no one cares. Horrible care.
Okay. Let's do this. I have a lot to say about that video. First of all, you have to sit with that video to see where you are with that video. Okay. You have to sit with it. And you have to trust your instincts as to whether you think that that video is valid and real, whether it is manipulative or fear porn. You've got to sit with that. Okay. That's kind of your choice as to how you deal with that video. And I trust people enough to have developed some sense of real awareness and discernment skills. I'll tell you what I think of the video. I think it's valid. I think it's valid. I think she's very authentic. Clearly, she has a high degree of knowledge about the drugs involved, intubation, CPAP. So this is not an actress, or if they are an actress, or an actress who has a high degree of knowledge around nursing. But the emotional tenor of that video, I think, is authentic and very congruent. You can tell she's scared. You can tell there's a deep level of concern. I don't think, and if that's not real, then, she should get the first plane out to Babylon, Hollywood, because that's a tremendous performance. I don't think it's a performance. I think it's real. I think that's what she's passing on. Okay, so if indeed we start there at that baseline and say that this woman is actually sharing with us the inside scoop as to what's happening in New York City, then what do we do with that? Like, where do we go with that? So the most logical thing that I come up with is that some of these hospitals, I'm not saying all of them, but the ones that she's referring to have literally become death camps. And they've literally become death camps. And that it seems like there is a form of eugenics being practiced inside these places that she's describing. It sounds horrific, absolutely horrific. And the attitude of the people that are there in the hospital, supposedly involved in the care of these people just sounds outright satanic. And so then you have to think about, well, how does this happen? Right? Aren't these nurses and doctors supposed to be people that have taken a Hippocratic oath? They're there for our care. I would say that across the board, with almost any form of government or any form of organization, you'll see that there have been people that have been inserted at higher levels of whatever institution it is, whether it's entertainment or the government or the pharmaceutical industry or medicine, the judicial branch, even sports. The people that are inserted, and those people are the people that are essentially controlling the narrative, and even worse, that they're operatives, that they're very dangerous operatives. Does that mean that everybody at that level is, or in that place is that? Probably not. But all they need is about 70% to control the environment. And it sounds horrific. It sounds like something right out of Jacob's Ladder. So the other thing that is there are a couple of things that are very disturbing. One is that they've got these people in intubation. Essentially, they're just forcing, right? They're forcing the lungs to breathe hard. Like they're forcing. They're not allowing to have that circulating air, the CPAP, which is what she's talking about. The intubation is basically not allowing them to get any real circulation. It's just pumping and pumping very hard, high levels of whatever it is they're pumping into the lungs. I don't even know what they're pumping into the lungs. They're not getting any critical care. They're not getting any human interaction, because it sounds like the people that are in these places, based on her video, are trending towards subhuman. The other thing I thought that was both interesting and telling was that talking about things like vitamin C and vitamin D and zinc, and even some of the antivirals that they've been using. Apparently, according to her, the people there laugh. The staffers laugh. They laugh at it. What does that tell you? Well, what is? I mean, we're dealing with a very hardened consciousness that, quite frankly, doesn't even seem human, in my estimation. So this, and then of course, there's nobody there for them. There's nobody there for these people. Their family's not there, and clearly the hospital staff is not there. So they're going through days of isolation and hell, wondering if they're ever going to get out of this situation. And they may not even have what they're saying that they have. Right? They may have had some symptoms, and they go in there and say, "You got it, brother." In you go, and out you don't come. Or if they do have whatever it is, they're clearly not following the path. And what's the guy's name? Dr. Cameron Littell. I don't know who this guy is, but apparently he's lost his job. Another nurse lost her job. Maybe these are people that are speaking out around what's going on. But remember now, it's happening in New York State, and this is a state that has allowed late 11-hour, 55 minutes and 55-second abortions. So would this be so incongruent? The answer is no. I'm concerned that what we're seeing is sort of the beginning of these death panels, that they're just managing people out now. They just want to manage as many people out as possible. Manage it out, manage it out, manage it out. And there's many different ways of managing the population out. And I think that we've stumbled upon one of them. It's very, very hard for a lot of people to hear and say, how can this be? How can this be? These people they've taken an oath. They're here to help us. They're here to care for us. Somebody brought up Eustace Mullins' death by injection a couple of weeks ago. Go watch some Eustace Mullins videos. You'll find out what's been in place for quite a long time. Did a show last night looking at Jonas Salk, the vaccine charts. You should check it out. I think it's there's a lot of information in there. And then in chat, in the comments from yesterday's show on the YouTube page, Uncle Glenn left some great stuff. also polio and the vaccinations for polio. And I haven't gone down that rabbit hole, but he's also linking it to the death of JFK. So the vaccine thing is huge. It once Salk opened that floodgate, you know, it was like a gate to hell. And very dirty vaccines. It's been like a gate to hell. So it looks like hell, the portal of hell is going to open in the city of Chicago. Now, I've been saying for a while that they already have the vaccine, that we're going to get the vaccine by next year or year and a half or September. No, they've got this thing. They've had it for a while. People don't run operations unless they have the problem, which is the problem. We're dealing with the problem, the reaction to the problem, and then the solution to the problem. And they have the solution, and they've been sitting on the solution for a while now. So let me see if I can find this this other piece here. Here we go. All right. So this is going to be a little shocking. And it's not a very long video. It's only about 20 seconds, but it is 20 seconds into the future and 20 seconds that you need to pay attention to. So let me get back in here and fire this up. And I'll play this a couple times. Away we go.
Coming back. And then finally, we'll be moving towards this mass vaccination campaign and continuing to follow. And I want you to know that CDPH is already deep in the planning stages around vaccination. We've already bought the syringes. We already know where it's going to happen. We're thinking about what that's going to be. It's all part of this plan. Coming back. And then finally, we'll be moving towards this mass vaccination campaign and continuing to follow. And I want you to know that CDPH is already deep in.
She is, again, look at her face. She is smiling. Here we go.
Already deep in the planning.
Look at the smile. And these clowns who are the signers. When is Saturday Night Live going to do a skit on them? Jesus Christ.
Is already deep.
Look at her. Look at her. Look at that face. Look at that face. That looks like the face of the Joker, doesn't it? That is like the Joker grin right there. She is so happy. She's so happy. And they already have the syringes. Here we go.
Deep in the planning stages around vaccination. We've already bought the syringes. We already know where it's going to happen. We're thinking about what that's going to be. It's all part of this plan.
It's all part of this plan. And she's also invoking Chicago, the police of Chicago, to help administer the vaccines. I'll play it one more time. I'm going to run it back one more time.
Coming back. And then finally, we'll be moving towards this mass vaccination campaign and continuing to follow. And I want you to know that CDPH is already
CDPH.
Deep in the planning stage.
Chicago Department of Police, right? Headquarters in the CDPH.
Around vaccination. We've already bought
the syringes. Look at her. This is like a big freaking moment for this little Joker troll.
The syringes. We already know where it's going to happen. We're thinking about what that's going to be. It's all part of this plan.
It's all part of this plan. Thank Pete Santilli show for popping this up there. You can see now where this is all going. No mystery. No mystery at all. So there's an acceleration that's taking place. They are moving everything up very, very quickly. And they're moving it up very quickly because of people that are waking up. And I want to just contrast those two women. It's a very interesting contrast, right? We have the young woman who was talking about what's going on in New York City, you know, courage, bravery. You know, we saw the woman in Frisco who basically is opening up her salon. She's got the mask on. She's taking people's temperature, one person at a time. They gave her some and she tore it up. The woman in Meridian, Idaho, who, you know, got cuffed or whatever because her kids were. So we're seeing some really, I don't know about the woman in Idaho. The jury's still out on her, but these other two women, the one we just all saw on the video, and the woman up in Frisco, Texas, who opened up her salon. These are some very strong women. Very strong women. and they're standing up for freedom. And she's saying, go against the grain, go against the grain. And this is what I've been saying for a while now, go against the grain. That woman in Chicago, she is the grain. She is the grain. Absolutely. That is the grain. Let me give you an update with some other things that are happening. I think they're very, very noteworthy. Number one, oil keeps crashing. So we're going to witness the end of the petrodollar. There are tankers floating off the coast of California, off the Gulf. There's no oil to go anywhere. That's number one. Now we're starting, because of the fact that that there's not the same amount of food that needs to go into the system vis-a-vis all these different restaurants, that there's an overpopulation of chickens. They're going to have to slaughter literally millions of chickens because they don't have work. They don't have the people there to process everything. We've already seen, this is a Tyson chicken plant. And then Smithfield, who of course is owned by the Chinese. Don Tyson was a buddy of Bill Clinton's. That's how Tyson really got its start, was through Bill Clinton and what was happening in Arkansas. And Clinton was the governor of Arkansas. So of course, Tyson's going to be in the pocket. But we're starting to see this now. Apparently there are farmers who are not able to make repairs to their tractors. They're not. Let me see if I can find that. Let's see if I can find that piece, because I like to actually bring things up when, or I like to have a link to stories or bits of information. So I'm going to see if I can pull this thing up here. Yeah, it's easy to find. This is easy to find. So I'm going to bring it right up here. This is from the trenches, worldreport.com. Again, this is information that you need to know so you can be better prepared. Farmers are hacking their tractors because of a repair ban. It's from Vice. March 3rd, 2020. As of 2020, no right to repair law has passed in the U.S. But more than 20 states are considering legislation similar to Nebraska's, and Bernie Sanders, Liz Warren have both supported national right to repair legislation for farmers. When it comes to repair, farmers have always been self-reliant, but modernization of tractors and other farm equipment over the past few decades left most farmers in the dust thanks to diagnostic software. In this episode of State of Repair, we go to Nebraska to talk to farmers and mechanics who are fighting manufacturers like John Deere for the right to access diagnostic software they need to repair their tractors. So the video was already happening in 2018. So this is this is perhaps a bit misleading, but the way that the system has been set up is that they cannot have their tractors repaired unless they take them to the manufacturer. And in a time like this, right, where it's all hands on deck, who's going to be at these manufacturers to actually work on the tractors? You see, that's a double bind. That's what we're dealing with now. We're dealing with a double bind, because we know that these plants have laid people off. When would this guy get his tractor back? If he sent it in, he might not get it back for another 2 months. I'm not saying that that's the case, but it's something to speculate about, right? So we're seeing things like food shortages beginning to potentially pop up because of these plants closing. And look, I'll be honest about this. Some of these plants are just incredibly inhumane to begin with. I mean, see, that's the other side of this. Like, would we really lose sleep over a Chinese Smithfield plant that's slaughtering pigs? Are we going to lose sleep about that? Probably not, right? Do they have to kill the pigs as a result of that because they can't process them? Probably. Would that keep you up? Maybe. What about the chicken plant? Tyson chicken? I've never bought a Tyson chicken in my life, and I never will buy a Tyson chicken in my life because I know the practices of the Tyson chicken people. Are we going to lose sleep over that? No. But again, what's going to happen to the chickens? Millions of chickens are going to get slaughtered. Even if they're not great chickens, right? It's a waste of life. So some of these plants probably need to close anyway. I'm just saying. But what's not going to happen is a different plant or a different process reopening in the face of the industrial farming or the industrial slaughterhouses and processing being shut down. I'm okay with that. But there's nothing that's going to take its place. Nothing that's going to take its place. So this is going to be an issue. So we're going to be dealing with potential food shortages, right? They're coming. The food shortages they're potentially going to come here. We have people that are lining up in places like San Antonio and San Diego in lines almost 2 miles long to get food because people are not being able to go out and work. Even if they have their stim checks, even if they have some of the stuff that they need, what's going to happen with the food? Well, the food is going to be distributed. If you want to get food, you're going to have to jump through hoops, okay? And what is one of the hoops you have to jump through? That person, when she said vaccine, it's like, what the fuck? Total mocking. Anyway, that's it. You want to go back into society. You want to restart society. It's going to be real simple. You just get the shot. You get the shot and you're in. You're in. That's it. You can eat. We'll give you food. Enough if you get the shot, you can go back to work. Enough if you get the shot, you can resume watching sports. Some degree of normalcy. We'll wind up sort of being regenerated, restarted, reanimated. Right. But I read a lot of comments of the stuff that comes my way, and again, maybe the places I go are biased in terms of their comments, but I can't tell you right now, there's not a lot of appetite for a vaccine out there. There's just not. And they know this. They know there's not a lot of appetite for it. So it's going to be very interesting now when we hit that threshold. Are they going to force people? They're going to starve people out? They're going to keep people out of their livelihoods and their vocations? Is that going to be the strategy? And what happens if people just say no? Are they going to force people? Are they going to force vax? And then what? Then what's going to happen? I think it could get very, very bloody at that point. Now, we talked in the Saturday show, we talked about the documents that you can download and sign for non-consent. Go to the Need to Know, which is G. Edward Griffin's site. Apparently, you can download the forms there. I think it's a good start. Is that, if you're waving this in the face of somebody with a cattle prod and an AK-47, are they gonna like read your document? I don't know if that's the case. It's like hold on a second. Oh yeah, let's move on. He's got the right document. You think it's gonna happen? I don't know about that. I don't know. I'm not a fear monger, but listen, we gotta see like what's ahead of us, right? We got to see what's ahead of us, and we have to see the environment around us. And I want to thank that young woman who I think risked a lot to put that video out there. I don't know who she is, but I want to thank her because at the very least, it opens potentially our eyes to what's taking place. And again, you've got to sit with that video. You've got to ask yourself, do I believe this? Is it real? Why would they do this? Why would she do it? All those things are important. And then you can make your decision based on that. The video from Chicago, I think it's real. I don't think there's any doubt about it. And then the question is, what are you going to do about it? Okay. Let me check in with you guys. Let's see where we are because I'm about ready to get out of here. The truth, industrialized mass production of meat is toxic for the body. We know that already. Let's see. Not sure. I think the majority wear masks 1 to 4 days. Yeah, you might be right. Zane Levy says sometimes sometimes bribes talk more than papers. You're not the only one. That worked quite well in the Soviet Union. Lynn says, I have a friend here with symptoms because of the fucking restrictions here. A man can only go out on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I'm going to take him some tinctures. His wife is stuck in Florida. I'm not wrong. I followed this for a long time. Their plan started with Monsanto. They perfected their plans in third world countries like India. Yes, they have, actually. Absolutely. We've talked about that. You're absolutely right. Yes, Tyson was a small regional player until they picked up that CIA contract. Yep. Agreed. The plan used to be called the Green Revolution, feed the earth via plant food. Modi banned beef in China. Modi banned beef in China. China owns meat plants in the U.S. You'll start shutting down. Yes, they will. Actually, not yes. Absolutely. 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 All right. Bada bing. Bada bing. What else do we have here? Bureaucratic dreams are always too bloated to fly. Well, we'll see. You know, Deanna, when they decide to make something happen, they're not too bloated now, are they? They when they want to get shit done, they can get shit done. The ISIS cycle. Hey, you know, I didn't bring this up the other day. I wanted to bring this up the other day, but apparently, Clyde, uh, Clyde Lewis is on the edge of not having his program, Ground Zero. I don't know where he is with that, but I think he needs some help. I love Clyde. I haven't kept up with him for a while. I know he's over on Facebook. So just a kind of a sound alarm, call to alarm with Clyde. And I'm not sure what we can do for him, but he's definitely a messenger. He's definitely a messenger in a big way. And I hope we can keep him on the air. Mary Black says, we are the virus. That is true. Very true. You cannot work in this equipment without diagnostic software. That's right. Absolutely. Same with your cars as well. And also same with your laptops. Same with your laptops. Yeah, kick these guys out with the Cyrillic. Kick the Cyrillic guys out of here. Thank you, Ani. Thank you, Steve. I did a little myself. They kick them out. They're nothing but trolls. We don't need them. Fuck them. Okay, what else do we have here? The plan is to starve us. Yes, indeed. That is a big plan. It's about sanctions. We are being sanctioned. The same sanctions that we have imposed upon other nations are now being imposed upon us. I hate to say it, but that is true. It is true. The rooster has come home to roost in many ways. So then we think about, well, was it really us? Was it really us who were making the sanctions on all these other countries around the world? Was it really the United States? Or was it the so-called shadow government, the swamp, the cabal, right? Whoever you want to sort of cordon off or put into that category, maybe they're the ones that have been using the sanctions or actually enacting the sanctions through this government. And now they're enacting the sanctions again, once again, through this government, only this time it's in here and not out there. Something to think about. But we are waking up. We are waking up. And I'm going to hold that place. I'm going to hold that space. I'm going to hold that place right here on the island of sanity. Coming at you live right now. I'm live every day, with the exception of Saturday. And even this last Saturday I was live, but it was with a different group of people. Again, this is 15 Minutes of Flame. I'm here Monday through Thursday, Tuesday through Thursday, 8:45 Central Standard Time. I try to get here on Monday as early as I can, but I'm coming off the Sunday night show. And then, of course, we have Sunday Night Astro Live, which we did last night, looked at some of the charts around Jonas Salk, FDR, and the two vaccine trials, along with the Rio Summit chart, the Agenda 21 chart, which I think is quite telling. It's a big one. It's a big clue. And so that's on Sunday night. And Friday, of course, we have the Friday Farcast. And this Friday, we have a terrific guest lined up. And Sonia Barrett. I'm very excited to have Sonia on the show. I've been following Sonia for a long time. I started following Sonia back around 2011. And I'm like, this woman's got it. She's tapped in. So I'm really looking forward to having a high level conversation and, tapping into her mind and her spirit and her soul and the particular kind of magic that kind of she's engaged with, at the reality level. I'm really looking forward to that. And I may try to get another guest to be a part of the Friday show. But right now, that's who we have this Friday. And then the Friday after next, we're going to have Sayer G from Florida. He's going to be on the show. And then we're going to have Sharon Rose, who is a documentarian, filmmaker, Qigong, high-level Qigong practitioner And of course, her husband and life partner just happens to be Jay Widener. So I'm looking forward to having Sharon on. That's going to be a great show. And we've got some other, really fantastic guests lined up even beyond that. If you'd like to subscribe, there'll be a link in the description for the show page. And I've got different levels of subscription. And then this Saturday, I had the first webinar that some of the free subscribers or some of the subscribers went to. And you get 2 free webinars. You get one if you're at the Mars level, and then you get 2 if you're at the Jove level, plus everybody from Mars to Jove gets a transit report for the coming year. So it's a pretty good deal. It's a pretty good value. I try to make sure that you guys are getting, some real value for the money, because there's a lot of other channels out there. There's Patreons, and I know a lot of you subscribe to other people as well. And I want to really thank you for doing that for me and this channel, but also the other channels that need some TLC and a little bit of resources to survive and get by, so that we can continue to help bring you as high level quality of content. You see, I went out and I got myself a really nice computer, right? Fast, pictures great. So your money has gone towards actually improving the show, and there's more to come. There's more to come. All right. Thank you, one and all. Why don't I just say, I didn't say the Lord's Prayer on the way in here, but why don't I say it on the way out of here? Let me see if I have it. Let me just grab it. Let me just do this. Let's get out of here with the Lord's Prayer today, just so we leave with a little bit of protection on the way out of here. We're going to just fire it up here. Here we go. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever and ever. Amen. There we go. Setting you off on that. Use your head to discern what's real, your heart to say what's possible. I'm Robert Phoenix. Thank you all very, very much for being here today. And I'll be back tomorrow with more of the same, but different. Bye for now.